Hi everybody! As promised, this is the second part of the scarf making process. This is the colors video and the finishing up video, so it's a bit longer than the first video, but hopefully you won't mind. I started with the glass blue colors, so the mirror glass and the glass dome that goes over the rose. It was nice when certain colors ended up being the same and I didn't have to keep mixing new colors. As you watch, you can kind of see how quickly this paint dries. It goes on a lot darker than it is actually when it's dry, so on one side of the dome you can see it's already faded to being dry, and then the bottom is still wet, and now you can't see it anymore. The nice thing about this type of paint is if you want a more vibrant color, you can go over it again with the same color and it becomes more vibrant with each layer, which is what I did in certain parts of the mirror handle and other parts of the scarf later. And then later that night is when I went back and started doing some more colors, like this is Chip, and the book is the same color as Chip, which goes on as a much darker, weird looking yellow, but then it dried very nicely into a color that was only about a shade darker than the original white of the scarf. You can see Chip is already dry. And I went back and did some little shading things with another layer of the same color. And then I added the gold, which, as I said in the first video, I forgot the little gold band between his cup and his base. So I know this, and I will fix it for whenever I draw Chip again. So many shades of pink in this scarf, in very small amounts, but so many shades. My goodness. There was pink in Chip's face and in Chip's mouth and all over the rose. There's probably 4 or 5 different shades of pink and red in the rose. And tiny bits of purple. And blue. There's a lot of blue. Some parts of the rose I went over again with other colors or the same color to make it more vibrant. And one of the book spines was maroon, which I believe is the same maroon that's the inside of Chip's mouth. And then other parts were green. So here I am working on the green of the rose's stem, which I liked to test on very small parts first to make sure I liked the green, and then I spread it out. I decided the green of the rose stem would be the same green on the open book, but I wanted a darker green for the other book's spine. So I tested it a little bit, and then I put it on this one and wasn't super thrilled with the shade of green because it's a little darker and a little more gray of a green than I liked, but you can't really do anything when something's too dark. You kind of have to deal with it. If it's too light, you can always go back and redo it, but not when it's too dark. And a great example of something being too light is this yellow that I put on at first. When it dried, it ended up looking more like a dingy yellow than the nice, pretty, vibrant yellow that I wanted. But you have to keep going. You can't just stop in the middle of it, so I kept going, and then I ran out of that yellow, and I had to make a new yellow anyway. Which ended up being even paler than the first yellow I found, so I had to do that again, which is why this part of the video is sped up 20 times instead of 15. I was trying so hard to make all the yellow look nice in this point, but then by the time I finished this go-through of the yellow, it was still not right, and it was probably at least 1 in the morning, so I had to stop for the night. New day, new outfit, new yellow. This yellow turned out a lot better than the previous yellow. It's a lot more vibrant, and it was much closer to the actual color that my friend wanted. It's not the same yellow as Belle's fancy dress, but a paler yellow works better for my friend, so that's what we went with. The idea of the massive expanses of color on this scarf, where one side would be Belle's blue dress and the other side would be her yellow dress. But when we came up with the design, it turned out that the actual yellow of Belle's dress was not the right yellow for the skin tone of my friend. So used a lighter yellow. And this blue, I realized a little bit into it that it was not dark enough, so again, like the yellow, I had to just keep going with the too light color, and then I fixed it later. Because if you stop in the middle, you just get this weird band of different color that's not what you're going for. If you're wondering about the music, it's just some loops put together in GarageBand to make a song. There we go, that's a much better blue. It's a lot closer to Belle's village dress, and I like how this blue looks. It's also not the same blue as the mirror, which is great. The thing about massive expanses of color is you have to be very careful with how you would use your brush strokes, because once it's dry, you still kind of see the brush strokes. So I had to just keep going up and down the same way, the whole way across. There are slightly different brush strokes when I get to like a line where I'm trying to make sure I don't go over the line, because they're not force field, they're just a helpful little block. And there I ran out of that blue, so I had to mix a new blue. Slightly darker than the original blue, but not too bad. So, dealt with it and then added some little shadowy sort of effects with it. And then I mixed a new green, a lighter green, to try to make the gray green a little more friendly. And then for added depth to the other book, I went over that too. And then went over to the rose stem, just more depth. And this is what it looked like when it was all painted. Then came the oh so fun process of taking it off of the frame, which you just have to clip all the threads that you stitched on in the first place. It's much less time consuming than the stitching part, but it is still a little bit time consuming. Not only do you have to clip the threads, you also have to get the knots out, which takes some patience sometimes. And I got some rolls of brown paper and rolled up the scarf so that none of the fabric touched other parts of the scarf. Then I taped it closed and filled a pan with water. Yay! Really big pan of water.